Yes, good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking Arsenal as there's been a lot of transfer news. Eddie Nketiah, Ramsdale, and maybe even a shock move for Toney. We've got Giuseppe on the channel today, mate. How's things?
Yeah, good man. Happy Nketiah's going. As you know, a lot of Arsenal fans are really happy of this day. We've been wanting it for a long time. I think as well, I think with Arsenal fans, it's not so much the hate for Eddie, maybe. It's more that we want him gone because it convinces us that we're going to bring in an attacker. But yeah, man, I'm
Do
good.
you know
You?
what? I think if now that he's gone, I think the next 24 to 48 hours for your club is absolutely massive. I think this is, of course, Edu, I think he come out and said something along the lines of the last week of the window, expect like big moves. There's so many players. Every forward I've seen practically on the planet at the moment, there's some sort of links to Arsenal. But look, if you're new to the channel, get over and subscribe. The road to 25k is on. Get over to Giuseppe's channel and subscribe as well. That will be pinned in the description. And of course, hit the like button. But the breaking news today, Eddie Nketiah to Crystal Palace. Here we go. Deal in place between clubs for £25 million, fixed fee plus 5 million in add-ons. Nketiah already accepted to join Palace 2 days ago, and he's now set to complete his medical test. Permanent move as Arsenal wanted green light. Arrived. Well, £25 million, that's pure profit. It's another academy player sold. That's over £50 million now of academy talent you've sold this window, still with Reece Nelson up in the air. Surely, like every Arsenal fan's got to be over the moon the fact that you've got rid of Nketiah now. And that's no disrespect to Nketiah, but he's not in Arteta's plans, is he?
No, yeah, I think it's listen, it's one of them where there's always that thing of we've got Nketiah on the bench, this and that. So I think it's good for him to have gone, for himself, for the fans. All Arsenal fans wanted him kind of gone. Can't really think of a fan. It just hasn't worked out for him. He's not really an Arsenal level player. I think he'll do well at Palace. 25 million plus 5 million add-ons. We said we wanted 30 million. I know people were like, but we got similar offers to that and we declined them. No, we didn't. We were getting like offers of like 18 million plus 5 million euros as well. People want to always forget the difference between the pound and the euros. And also, when people offer them, you don't know what the add-ons are. Like these might be really simple add-ons. Like 5 million is like more than 6-7 goals, or he plays more than 10 games, or they don't get relegated. Like, so these are probably really achievable add-ons as well. So I think it's actually a good price for him, to be honest. I think that 30 million is probably fair. I do feel like sometimes we could maybe have got more. We should be getting more for players when you see like Oliver Skip going for that same money.
Well, look at Broja. He's got 8 league goals at Chelsea in 5 years, and he's gone for £30 million.
Yeah.
Surely Nketiah is better than Broja.
And this is why, and he's English. Like, we've got to remember, he's not like that, but you know how it is. You need the English players in your team, homegrown. Well, not homegrown, but English players. So he should be going for that or more. For me, I think that it's just that it's Arsenal, and we're slowly building up our rapport in the transfer window and how we roll. And I think this summer we've done good business in the transfer window. We've basically not spent any money. I was actually looking at it. This is why I actually think I'm starting to get a bit confident that we're going to get a couple bits of business done before the end of the transfer window, because I look at it and we haven't spent any money. I know we've bought in Calafiori and Moreno, but the players we've sold and or got the loans coming with the obligations to buy, we've actually sold more than we've brought in, like money-wise. Plus, you've got to look at Smith Rowe and that being pure profit. So we're really balancing our books well, and I think for the long run, it's gonna make so much sense. Yes, of course, people want us to do our business early, but I've said it before when we talk on the top six and that. Like, I think that people got to remember we're past that now. We don't need to rush to do our business early because we've got a good enough team to compete without signing any players, and it's shown. Even if we sign people, if we beat Brighton on the weekend and we've signed all our players, that means by the end of the transfer window, we've signed all the players finally, and we've won our first 3 games. So it doesn't really matter if they were here or not here by the end of the transfer window.
2 clean sheets and 4 goals and maximum points in your first 2. And I think, like, I don't know what you thought with the Villa game, but I thought there was a little bit of an overreaction in terms of how much Villa. Let's be honest, Villa had you under the cosh for a little bit, but that's expected. You're going away to one of the big clubs, which you lost that last year, but you come out of it unscathed. You saw Saliba last 30 minutes that game. Look, he's absolute peak of his powers. I thought it was a little bit of an overreaction, but speaking of your like outgoings, Kiwior, Romano's said in the last hour that Kiwior and his camp that he's not for sale. Do you think you've got too many defenders now? Because I don't think Zinchenko's going to go. I don't think Tomiyasu's going to go. Then you've got Timber, Ben White, and Calafiori that can all play fullback. And then, of course, you've got the main two, which Gabriel and Saliba, which is probably the best centre-back pairing, arguably in the world right now. Do you think? I don't think Kiwior's going to play that many minutes. Do you think you've got too many fullbacks?
I don't. No, to be honest, I think we're all right because like Kiwior, like he's a centre back, isn't he? So he's a left-sided centre back. So I don't know how we're looking at it, but if you look at it like, let's look at it like this: you've got Timber and Ben White as a right back. You've got Saliba, Ben White as a centre back on that side. So you've got like them. Then you've got Gabriel and Kiwior, and then you've got Zinchenko and Calafiori. That's two per position. It's just that I see maybe Toney going. I think he's the one that something may happen before the end of the window. But everyone else, I feel like it's kind of basically like two per position. It seems like we've got loads because we've got a few players in there that can play across the back line. Tomiyasu obviously can play across the back line. Timber can play across the back line. Calafiori can play half of the back line, and Ben White can play the other half of the back line. And this is why Arteta's built a formidable defense, because he can actually rotate, hopefully this season, very nicely with the defense without really messing up the whole defense. Like there can be a game where he only takes Gabriel out and he puts Calafiori in the centre back. Then there's one where he can rest the left back and maybe play Calafiori there if he ain't the main left back, or he can.
It's a nice headache to have.
Yeah. And I think Timber as well is going to be massive this season. I think Kiwior, I'm not mad at us keeping Kiwior, to be honest, because at the end of the day, depth all sounds good until you have an injury. And then one injury, you start looking at it. Say we got an injury and then we haven't got Kiwior anymore. Then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, well, if we get one more injury or a suspension or something, well, now we're looking a bit sticky. So I don't really mind that. I don't really mind. And he's going to know that he ain't going to get loads of minutes, because it's as harsh as it is when you've got a centre-back pairing as good as the one we have. They play every game. They play every game. They rarely get taken out. It's this that we've always known that centre-backs and goalies rarely get subbed out in the game, especially when you've got two as good as the two we have. Like, let's be honest, you said in the game Saliba is, in my opinion, I'm sorry, the best centre-back in the Premier League now. He's Van Dijk as a career, of course, there's no doubt about it. But right now, I think maybe he has the experience side of it. That's all I'd give him. Everything else I give to Saliba. I'll be honest. I think he's unreal. That for example, Van Dijk can't stop Ramsey in that Aston Villa game now. The way he tracked back that run
the pace of Saliba.
Yeah, it's unreal.
It's absolutely ridiculous. The thing I'll say about, if you're going to compare the two, I think the only centre-back in the league you can compare him to is Van Dijk. And the only other two maybe in Europe are Militao and Rudiger. And the only argument you can say for those two is they've done it in Champions League finals, which is fair enough. But Saliba has taken his form into the Euros from last season, had an unbelievable campaign, taken that into this season. What will define Saliba for me is when it comes down to the biggest games in the Champions League, and when he's done well against Haaland in the games you've played. I think you've reduced them to one shot on target City, both of last games last season. In the Champions League games as well, I think he'll get a lot more of his respect, because in the league, I think the only, like, if I'm taking bias aside, I think for what Van Dijk did in that League Cup final, basically playing with kids, I thought was phenomenal. And I don't think there are many centre-backs out there that can do that. But in terms of pace, power, physicality, reading of the game, playing out from the back, you can't really press Saliba. That's one thing that he has over every centre-back in the world. If he's in the corner flag, he looks like he could just do a Cruyff turn and get out of it. And the fact that he's only, 22, 23?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I reckon it won't be long before he's pinned down to another contract.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. We got to pin him. I would pin him down by the end of this season, give him a fat pay bump. We need this guy to stay. This guy will win this club. I'm telling you now, this guy will win us major trophies and a lot of them. Because like this is why people laugh Arsenal are gonna fall off. We're not. Like as much as people want us to fall off, when you look at our team, the only way Arsenal fall off is if we lose the players.
Or
Because
injuries.
or stupid amount of injuries. Because you look at Saliba. Yeah, and you think to yourself, this guy's 22 years old.
Yeah, it's
He's
nuts.
only going to get better. Even like when you're talking about Odegaards and Sakas, they're all young, man. Our team is pretty young. Like it's not going to go anywhere, and they're going to start. And once I've said, once we win something big, like a league or something, the floodgates will open because all these players will develop that winning mentality. And the same with Arteta as well. When he wins something massive, it's just gonna be, there's gonna be that switch will go off in their head where they've actually won something. And then we can go, God knows where. Because I've said to my mate, and I know it's far-fetched right now, people won't think, but we're building a team that can win Champions League. Because to win Champions League, you just need a mustard defense, to be honest. And we've seen it multiple times. And this defense right now, last season, we only conceded 29 goals in the league. Now, in the league we're in now, that's impressive. Less than 30 goals conceded in the league. Like, it's obviously they've got a lot to go. Last season as well, we had a really key difference in our team, and that was Zinchenko left back. And do you know what? How much I noticed it was the game against Villa.
Oh, what with Timber? You looked a lot more secure.
Timber. The last season, Bailey was ripping us to shreds. Yeah. And this game, I didn't even see him. Like he was a few times, Timber, like he's still growing he's still once again very young. He's like 21 years old. And he's just come back off an ACL injury. You would never tell the way he plays. The guy's a beast. Yeah, he don't look scared. He looks like an absolute monster.
He looks that good on the ball. He looks like he could go into midfield.
Yeah. And now that and we got like Calafiori coming off the bench in that position. Like now our defense is looking even more solid. That listen, they had chances, Aston Villa, in that game, but I'll be honest, when we were under the cosh for probably about when I look back at the game, or I look back at it, we're under the cosh for about 15 minutes, in the game, 15 maybe 20 minutes. But when we were under the cosh, they didn't really do anything. They didn't. The times they got us was these counterattacks that they had. When they were soaking up the pressure, they got us on a counterattack. And yes, Ollie Watkins should have scored, but one of them was a world-class save, and the other one, for me, I think the other one was a foul on Gabriel. I know that might sound, they didn't really show it closer.
Even if it was a foul, the chance played out. He has to score that.
He has to score that. 100%.
You put your house on any striker in the league, tapping it into an empty net. I mean, the Raya one, he's got to score that as well, but you can't discredit David Raya from getting on the floor and then coming back up. And he's now, like, he's putting his name in the top keepers in the league. And speaking of your goalkeeper, Southampton are now pushing and assessing their options for Ramsdale. I mean, I don't know much about, is it Juan Garcia? Is that how you pronounce it? Juan Garcia? I mean, I don't know much about him, but the fee for Ramsdale has got to be minimum £30 million. And I think this is going to be interesting, because if Ramsdale goes, that's 27 million for Smith Rowe plus add-ons going up to 35, 25 million for Nketiah, and then potentially 30 million for Ramsdale. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, but do you think Ramsdale will leave in the next coming days?
Yeah, I think. Do you know what the thing is with Ramsdale? Like, the thing I've argued that if I was Ramsdale, I wouldn't leave. Like, I know he wants first team football. I guess there's a difference, but like, maybe he is too good. But like, would you rather be a backup potentially winning the league and stuff with Arsenal, or would you rather be playing first team at Southampton? Like,
probably getting relegated.
Yeah, probably getting relegated.
No offense to Ramsdale, but he's been relegated 3 times already.
Yeah, like obviously he wants to play football, but I look to myself like he didn't get the offers that you'd expect him to have got. Now, I don't know the reason for that, because I thought, like, obviously the season before last, he was really good for us. I now look at Raya and I fully understand why Arteta swapped him, why Arteta brought him in. First of all, it's the plan out from the back thing. The comfortability from Raya. there's been a few times last season where he's tried something, which, by the way, Arteta has owned up to say he asked him to play them dangerous balls to get us on attack. So if he ever f's up and they concede from it, it's on Arteta. But the short passing and the pass to his feet and that, he never makes a mistake, and he's like another defender for them. And I think this Garcia guy is similar. I think he's good with his feet and that. He's also Spanish. And he's 23 years old. I guess that's why we want to bring him in, because maybe Arteta's looking at him to be the next Arsenal first keeper.
But
Ramsdale,
it kind of makes sense, doesn't it, to kind of to move him on. But
I think Ramsdale does need to. Sorry, I was just saying. I think Ramsdale needs to as well, because of the way he got taken over. I think like pride.
That interview as well didn't really, when he said about concentration, I kind of think that was the downfall for him. Probably wasn't, in hindsight, the best move to do. But speaking of moves, you've got Nketiah out the door. You've got Smith Rowe out the door. Reece Nelson may get a loan in the next, few days, next 72 hours. And if you get rid of Ramsdale, that'd be close to 100 million in sales. Not pure profit, all of it, a good chunk of it pure profit. But do you think Arsenal are going for a forward? Because you've got Ivan Toney, we'll come to in a minute. Osimhen, now it's looking like he's either going to go to Saudi or Chelsea. Lukaku has gone to Napoli. The here we go has already been announced by Romano. Chelsea, for me, Osimhen's probably a good suit for them. He'll go in and solidify their number 9 position. Then you've got the wide areas. You've got the likes of Raheem Sterling. You've got the likes of Kingsley Coman, Leroy Sané. And then you've got still concrete journalists coming out saying, do not rule out Nico Williams. Now, Nico Williams, let's be honest, if he comes into Arsenal, your front three is disgusting. Like I don't think anyone would laugh at you for saying you'd be strong favourites for the league with Nico Williams in your front three and probably within the top 4 or 5 for the Champions League. I don't necessarily think Nico Williams is realistic this window, but Lookman's still out there, Sterling's still out there, Coman's wanted by Saudi. Do you think Arsenal bring a forward in the next 72 hours? Because, of course, Edu's come out and said, there's going to be a big surprise last few days of the window. Now you've got here we go for Nketiah. It's looking like Ramsdale's going to go. Do you think you're going to bring a forward in?
Yeah. No. I've been confident for a long time. I think there's been a few things that have guaranteed it for me. Eddie Nketiah being sold, we will sign a striker. I can't see Arsenal not signing a striker now. It might not be the name that we all want or we think, but we will sign a striker. There's no way I see Arsenal selling Eddie Nketiah and then relying on Jesus and Havertz when Jesus is even right now got a little injury to his groin. And we know the way his injury are. So you're really risking going into the season with one striker. Anything can happen. If he picks up an injury and a free match ban, whatever it is, all right, cool, you can play Trossard or thing, but you're weakening other positions. So I think we do sign a striker. And I'm not going to lie. I know it might be wishful thinking, but I think we get both. I think we get a winger and a striker. I think one of them will probably be a loan, and I think the winger will end up being a loan.
What winger and striker do you think will be? Because, of course, you've been linked with Gyokeres for practically the whole summer. And, of course, Benjamin Sesko looked like he was the main guy at the beginning of the window. And, of course, he's been advised to stay in Germany another year. If you were to bring in a striker and a winger, which realistic options? Because, of course, for me, the most realistic option out wide probably could be someone like Sterling. Now, of course, we've had many discussions on the terrace. You're actually in favour of bringing Sterling in, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in favour of bringing Sterling in if we sign the striker that I want, which is Victor Gyokeres or Osimhen. What if you bring in one of them two? Then I don't mind the winger being. But because I look at it like this, if we sign Sterling right on a loan, first of all, who said it's got to be a loan with an obligation to buy? It might just be a loan for a season and then we go from there. And that's what I would do if I was Arsenal, because then you get him for a stopgap and then next year you can really try and get Nico Williams if he ain't possible this season. He might not be possible next season because he does want to go Barca. It will be hard to maybe get him from Barca. So I think really Arsenal have probably got to go all out to try and get him this year. But I don't think that's really feasible. I see from when he got that number 10 shirt, I can't really see it happening, but you never know. But yeah, Sterling's good shout. Coman, one of these sort of guys. I wouldn't mind a Brighton boy. He's more you're signing him to be,
Adingra.
but Adingra, you're more signing him to be part of the team rather than like a Coman
Yeah, because
or
he's
a
kind of younger.
Sterling. Yeah.
The thing is, Arteta loves versatility. Where I look at Nico Williams and I think if Barca have another year where they don't win the title in La Liga, which let's be honest, with Real Madrid having Vinny, Mbappe, and Rodrigo, it's likely that Madrid win another league title. I don't think Barca have got a good enough squad to win the Champions League, and I don't think a Copa del Rey at Barcelona is enough for Nico Williams to go, hang on, I want to move there. I get they're a historic, massive football club, but you know, he's just won the Copa del Rey with Athletic Bilbao, and he proved that he's a big game player in that competition and in the Euros. If Arsenal are there or thereabouts next summer, competing for league titles, and you pick up a domestic trophy this season, which I don't think is unrealistic at all by any stretch of the imagination, I think it's taken them 2.5 weeks to register Dani Olmo. That deal was done at the beginning, I think the 12th of August. So when people say Barcelona don't have financial, trouble, it's taken them 2.5 weeks to register a player. And now I know with Catalonian players, it's different. Olmo only wanted Barcelona, but I think, and this might sound nuts, but I think Williams at this moment chooses Arsenal over Barcelona because I think the Premier League title holds a lot more weight. One, Arteta's Spanish. You've just brought in Marino, who's also you've got a good crop of young players. And then the question mark would be, I think if Martinelli was to go, it opens up the door for that left-hand side because Trossard has been absolutely fantastic, but majority of his best performances have been off the bench. When he started games, I don't think he looks electric. Whereas if you bring in Nico Williams, that's the sort of signing where everyone goes, all right, yeah, this lot of they're not here to just compete; they're here to take over. Like that's the sort of sign. Something Man United signed Cantona in the 90s. He walks into the dressing room and everyone's like, yeah, that's Eric Cantona. That's what Nico Williams. That's that boy who scored against England in the final. But I don't know if it's realistic in the next few days. I think that might be on for next summer. But Sterling, I don't think that'd be a bad signing for you boys.
I don't listen. First, with the Nico Williams stuff, the only thing that makes me think he could pick Barcelona over us is he's Spanish. Obviously, his best friend Yamal plays there, and they both play for Spain on either wing, and they'd be bringing that to Barca. Plus, he has Pedri and Gavi, so he might look at it like I'm the missing piece to make this Barcelona team great again and stuff. That's the only reason I think. But I think we'd still have a fair shot at trying to get him. And for this window, yeah, I agree. I don't think he's feasible. Sterling as well, as you said, I don't think he's like people forget. Like we ain't crap. Like we are a well-oiled machine right now. Sterling just comes in and adds something to that world machine. Yes, I'm not going to be here and saying he's going to be like signing a Nico Williams. He ain't. But that's not what we're looking for in him. We're looking for someone to be a backup, someone to come off the bench in games, yeah, and make a difference. Someone to come on and start games to give Saka, etc., a rest. He's a guy that can beat a player. He's a guy that can counterattack well. He's a different type of winger to what we kind of have. And he'd be free technically because you're getting him on loan. Yes, the wages that it all depends on these sort of things. Like if we had to buy him, it'd be maybe a different story. But if we can get him on a loan, I don't see why that's an issue. If we sign a striker, once again, I say it like this: if we sign Sterling and that's the only guy we sign, and the window shuts now, and it's just who we've signed and Sterling, I'll be pissed off. I'll be like, that's not.
What
good
about
enough.
if you brought in Sterling and Toney?
I would be. I'd be half disappointed.
Gyokeres, but he's a guy who's probably proven.
I would be. I think that would grow on me. I think at the start, I feel like I might be a bit disappointed, which is funny because I wanted Toney. He was the guy. I was like, Tony's the one I want out of everyone. But I don't know why I've been put off of Toney now through this. I don't know if it's the fact that no one's gone for him. That. But I wouldn't be angry at that. But I wouldn't be like thrilled with that. It wouldn't be the same as signing like Gyokeres or Osherman, you know. But At the same time, Toney could then prove everyone wrong and come and get like 25 goals for us next season or something. So this season, so I'd reserve judgment on Toney. I wouldn't be like going, "Oh no, we've signed Toney. This ain't good enough." But Sterling, I don't think would be a bad shout as a backup winger if we sign a striker, but only if we sign a striker, because once again, the striker for me is more of a mainstay. Like, I think not that Havertz can't be a starter. I think he can, but I just think there's certain games that you just need a striker, an
You need a
out and
box
out
in the box
striker.
to get on that.
And the
Get on
reason
the
I want
chance.
Gyokeres is because, like, I know this comparison is not a direct comparison out of ability, but when I watch him play, because I've been keeping an eye on him since we've been linked and stuff, he's the closest striker I see out there right now to Harry Kane. And I'm not saying he's on Harry Kane's level, but I mean he can do the Harry Kane stuff. He don't only have to be he can be a beast in the box and score goals, but he can also involve other people and get assists and drop a bit deeper and get other people involved. He can do it all. And I've always said that. I always said that the past few seasons before you saw Kane and that. I said, ironically, the striker that Arsenal need, like if you were to say the perfect striker for Arsenal, it's Harry Kane.
Especially with the likes of Saka and Martinelli.
Yeah,
and
this is
got
what I'm
runners.
saying. And so this is why I want Gyokeres. By the way, Gyokeres also has electric pace that people don't realize, mate. When you watch him, you're like, bro, this guy's fast, and he's like 6'4". Like he's an absolute beast. I think he makes the most sense for Arsenal. It's just how much is he going to cost now, because he had that release clause, and maybe you could have got him for less. Maybe we still can, but obviously he started this season on flames. Like his stats is like 3 games, 6 goals, 3 assists. So he's got 9 GA in his first 3 games.
The numbers are stupid. What I want to move the conversation to Martinelli, because last season he didn't have his best season in terms of output. The season before he got 15 league goals, and so did Odegaard, and so did Saka. And then the season before that, he didn't have the best of seasons. And a lot of Arsenal fans are slowly but surely not turning their back, but not as confident in him. Whether it's his own lack of confidence, his decision making in the Wolves game, I don't think was the best. His decision making in the Villa game, I don't think was the best. And what doesn't help him is Trossard comes off the bench and then 2 minutes later scores a goal, and then puts a dangerous ball in, which Saka then gets on the end of, lays off Partey and scores. So if Leandro Trossard didn't come on as an impact sub, Arsenal might not have won that match, which, if you're the player coming off and the player coming on scores, is a bit of a crap feeling. But with all these links to Williams and these wire players and the fact that Arteta loves versatility, I don't see at the moment a future for Martinelli at Arsenal. I'll be brutally honest. I think Trossard's the better finisher. I think Gabriel's Martinelli's best asset is when he's running at players because of his pace. But he looks completely shot of confidence. And if you're the manager right now going in against Brighton, you're playing Leandro Trossard ahead of him because of his performance against Villa. Do you think he's got a future at Arsenal, or do you think this is just a phase? Because he's only had 1 out of his last 3 seasons has actually been decent in terms of his numbers and output.
Yeah. So first, the thing is, first of all, I think people have been like a bit harsh on Martinelli. It's only 2 games into the season. I know he ain't been great, but he had a season last year where he lacked confidence. I don't think the scene very suited him last year. And I think he's shot, as you said, he's shot of confidence, and he's a confidence player. He's a guy that needs confidence to do his thing. You know, I'm reserving judgment because people say he only had that 1 good season, even though before that he was pretty decent as well. He never, like last year was more like a bad season, but the season that he done so great, we had Granit Xhaka in the 8, and Granit Xhaka's a left-footed 8 that was including him in the game because the way he was attacking really involved Martinelli. We haven't, since he's gone last season, you could see that it weren't really happening with him on that side. Now we've brought in Moreno, which is a left-footed 8. So I want to see what he can do with Moreno, because you got to remember, like, Martinelli has no left back. Like, I know these are, people say these are excuses and that, and I agree. He needs to still be doing better when he's getting the ball and taking on players and that, but that's a confidence thing. You got to remember, our left-hand side pretty much always inverts, so he hasn't got the runner going over behind him to draw away
Yeah,
players.
there isn't an overlap at the moment, is there?
Yeah, so I think that he's very. I think a mix between confidence and the systems like shaking him at the moment. He will grow into it. I think he's got a future at Arsenal, 100%. If it's a starter, main starter, I'm not sure yet, or if it's a squad player. But once again, a squad player don't mean not all squad players are guys that play like 20 minutes one game. That squad players now play a lot of football. They
There's a lot
start
more
games.
competitions, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's eight games in the group stage of the Champions League now.
Yeah, so there's tons of space for him. So I think he does. Listen, Trossard, although he's coming on and doing well, he's older. He's not got many years left in him. So yeah, I think he's got a future. And if you see what Arteta was doing with Martinelli last season, he started moving him over to the right when Saka was coming off in games. So he's obviously trying to adapt him to playing winger as well as like right wing as well as left wing. So I think that could obviously jump into his game. If we sign a left winger, then he can also be back up for Saka, start games on the right, etc. He can also play up front. I feel like he never gets the nod up front. He never gets the nod to have a go up front. I think it's because the system we play. But I don't know. I feel a bit harsh for him right now. I think like people are being a bit harsh because it's been 2 games and not rivals, because I get that. Rivals are always going to be onto him now. But Arsenal fans, I think the way they've been to him, like, he's not good enough. Oh, look, he's lost everything. He's not that. Like, he had a lot of injuries last season and he's not got no confidence. Give him time. Let him play.
Mm-hmm.
I think you do start Trossard against Brighton, because I do agree with rewarding someone. Like, he come on, he scored a goal, you reward him and you start him. Definitely against his former team. Yeah, you want him starting. But once again, Arsenal fans will argue for Trossard, but the amount of games I've watched Trossard start and he doesn't do good in the game that he starts, and it's when he comes off the bench, he affects the game so well. Like, so sometimes we got to look at that, but I would give him the start. And for Martinelli, I think he's also a player that can have a bit of grit between his teeth coming off the bench. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I
think you'll beat Brighton comfortably. If I'm being, like, I know Brighton have beaten United and they absolutely destroyed Everton. So did we, to be fair. I mean, we put 4 past them, but Everton are. I think they're I think they're going to go down this year. I'll be honest. I think if you beat Brighton and keep another clean sheet, I think for you it's going to be, the league could be won on goal difference, and that because how solid your defense is, I think you'll keep a lot more clean sheets than City. But Brighton's a different sort of challenge because they're even more heavy possession based than they were under De Zerbi. They've got a very young coach, got a very raw team. But I think if you get past them, which you should very comfortably, the next 2 games to me, in terms of your season, are absolutely huge. North London derby. Now, let's be honest. I'm taking my Spurs hat off. You should beat us, but you never know over North London derby. I know you've done well in the last couple of games, but I mean, I remember at the when you had the Invincible boys, you would come with Thierry and Birdcamp, and you still didn't beat us that year. You drew 2-2. The next one after that is the big one, and what I think benefits you is you play, I think, the top 8 this side of Christmas, but they're all away from home. So when it comes to the back end of like March and the Aprils and the Mays, when it's the title running, all your tough games are going to be at the Emirates. This is why when I was doing the predictions on the top 6, I do think you will somehow, some way pip City to the title. But the next 3 days in the transfer window and in January, it's almost like a game of chess. If City go out tomorrow and sign a £100 million winger, Arsenal have to react. If Arsenal tomorrow sign Victor Gyokeres, City have got to react. It's almost like if you move, I move. But if your window is to finish right now and you've only brought in Marino and Calafiori, how would you feel going into the rest of the season?
Oh, I'd be disappointed. I'd still think we can win the league. I've said it. I've said it. I think we're going to win the league. I do, because I just think that everyone said, like, obviously Man City have started well, but nothing new from City. We know they're going to smash these teams and that. But for me, the thing that makes me think that we're going to win the league is the fixtures are a big part of it. Like the last 2 seasons, where we've been battling with City, that City away game has been a thorn in the side in both seasons, where it's coming towards the end of the pressurized season and we got City away, bruv, and we got to get something out of City away. We got them early now where there's a lot less pressure. We could lose that City game now and it wouldn't be the end of the world because you've got so much more of the season to go. Like the points, it's more the points you drop near the end of the season that really affect you because people dilly-dally and drop stupid points. That's why I have said, and I know people took it out of context to an extent and stuff, and maybe thought I was wild, but I said we win our first 5 games, I think we've won the league. And when I say that, not that you don't win the league in September, but I think if we get through our first 5 games and we've beaten Villa at Villa Park, Spurs at White Hart Lane or the Tottenham Stadium, and City at the Etihad, along with Brighton, which have caused in a lot of teams problems, as we've seen, and Wolves, fair enough, Wolves is a bit of a nothing game, but we know Wolves can beat teams.
It's still a Premier League team. It's still
so if we win them 5 games, I'm sorry, but we've arguably won our 2 hardest games of the season, bar probably adding Liverpool at Anfield in there. I could see Villa beating a lot of teams at Villa Park, and the Etihad. That's the one for me. If we beat them away. Yeah, I just think it's a mentality thing as well. If we beat them away from home,
if you come off the Etihad pitch, even if you've been battered for 90 minutes with 3 points, it doesn't matter. It's all about the result that day. It doesn't matter. Like as much as people want to see, fancy football. When you're playing City, like Tottenham have managed to beat them something like 6 to the last 11 games. When you're under the cosh, the only thing you're coming out with is you want the 3 points. And I think you're right. If you somehow, some way come out of the Etihad. Because when it comes to the biggest of games, Guardiola in a title race normally comes out victorious. If you come out with the 3 points, I think that'll be the turning point.
Yeah. And listen, like we got to remember as well what it does for the mentality and the confidence of our team. Like this is why when I said if we've won our first 5 games, because you're going to look at a team now that's come from last season, nearly winning the league, and then they've come into the new season, they've won their first 5 games, and they're going to sit there next to each other and go, bruv, we've got back Aston Villa for last year, that done us last year. Yeah, and then back to back, we've beaten Spurs away, our rivals, and we've beaten Man City away, back to back. We can beat anyone. At that point, you get that belief. The players are all going to have that belief. It don't matter who we play, we can beat anyone. And having that at the start of the season going on, I think is immense. Now, if you're asking me right now, I take a draw at the Etihad. I take that right now, like 100%. If you offered me that right now and said you can guarantee it, I would probably take that right now. Win the first 4, beat you guys, obviously.
Yeah, I think any Arsenal fan would take a draw.
I think you got it,
especially the Etihad. But I think if I said to you 4 points right now out of those 2 games, I think you'd bite my hand off.
Yeah.
Look, I'm obviously going to back us, but look, we are going to wrap up. We've got Premier League coming in a few days' time, and of course, if you win, we for some reason there's a stupid international break. I don't know why there is. It's the most stupidest thing in the world. But look, we are going to wrap up. Make sure you get over to Giuseppe's channel and subscribe. What's your score prediction very, very quickly for the Brighton game?
I'm
going to go 3-0.
I was going to say 3-0 as well, but I think that might be a bit harsh to Brighton.
Oh, I'll go 2-0 then. If you want to go 3-0, I'll go 2-0.
I'm going to say 3-0 is wild. You know what? Go on 3-0. I think we'll keep a clean sheet again. I think we keep. Yeah. Bearing in mind, them first 5 games. Imagine Arsenal win them first 5 games and keep clean sheets in all 5 of them, mate. That'd be insane. But yeah, no, that's asking for too much. I'm being stupid. But yeah, 3-0 is my prediction for the Brighton game.
Yeah, obviously the transfer window, of course, closes on Friday. But look, we are going to wrap up. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you have subscribed, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. We are